What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, and thanks again for joining us on another video. And we are back on the Dakota LS swap because that's what we got going for us right now, guys. So last video you saw, again, it was a little piece together. I had a lot of footage I had to condense down into a really short time frame to try to keep it manageable and make it interesting for y'all. So I apologize if it felt like I was skipping around all over the place. I realized that after I went back and rewatched the video, and I'll try not to do that on this one. Try to keep it a little bit shorter for y'all and get as much done as possible. But last video we got everything in the truck for, like, in theory, the last time. I really haven't done anything since that last video. I did pick up a couple parts from the scrapyard, including this drive shaft that fits that T5 yoke. Probably needs some new U-joints, but everything's in pretty good shape. So in this video, we will be working on a little bit of the remaining stuff like the carburetor and MSD box. I'm going to start on that because the time has changed and it gets dark so early now, and I want to do that in the daylight, at least get everything mounted in the carb on, because that's kind of what we're down to now for the wiring and ignition side of things. So we're going to start on that while we got a little bit of light, see how far we get with that in this video. And then maybe when the light fades, we will come inside and I will show y'all what I'm going to do with this drive shaft and explain the process of it. All right, so we got the carb on here now. Super simple. Make sure it's all snug down evenly on all four corners. So the first thing we'll be mounting is the MSD LS series box. Now, as far as location, I can put this anywhere. I'm trying to keep my fenders clean. I cleaned up this side a little and I need to clean up this side more. So I'm kind of leaning towards doing something like back here. All right, again, guys, this is not the correct way to mount this with sheet metal screws, but till I'm positive on the placement, and then if that is the exact placement I want, pop it out, do my riv nuts, tighten them down, which I don't have the riv tool gun yet, but I do need to get one because the sheet metal screws are the answer for some things, but not all things. So, all right, so coil packs are on. There was actually one side that worked versus the other, so that was simple enough. I only have a bolt in the front and the rear on either one. I don't have any more hardware for them at this point. And then MSD box back there. And this is one of the harnesses. It looks like a lot. It's not much compared to an EFI car. Couple plugs. This guy, which this one obviously can only go in on the big spot. And it made a firm click. So for now, I'm just going to kind of route this up over here out of the way. And again, whenever I find the exact mounting spot for this, I would really like to get this wire back up under this cowling along with this last big harness, because that would really be easy. An entry and an exit hole, wiring all up in the cowl, pops out where it needs to. Of course, I've got to have some wiring running across here. That's just a given, but it'd be really fun to tuck as much of this as I could because it looks like I have a lot of extra harness than I need. So for now, I'll just wrap it up what I don't need, zip tie it, keep it out of the way while we test everything, because I don't want to go through all of this, take the time, find out I need a new MSD box or something like that. The MSD box worked for the last guy, but I do not have any history on it. We're gonna get this thing filled up with oil. I got my new flexible, relocatable dipstick in. So let's go ahead and pray we don't have any leaks, guys. All right, let's see what the dipstick says. Okay. Actually, looks like it might be a little overfull, so let me wipe this off and check it. Looks like we're just on the tad above the full, so like just right here's the full mark. We're like right here at where the base of my fingernail is, so we're just a tiny bit over that full mark. So I will leave it there. Well, it's 6:18, pitch blackout. I decided that I'm going to stop with what I did, so I ended up getting the battery, the main battery terminal, and the trigger wire run. Again, everything's long because I want to run it all nice and pretty behind the firewall, but it's got the good crimped ends on it with heat shrink. I connected the ground wire from the MSD box together, ran it up here, so everything's kind of like put together. I still need to see about those couple wires from the MSD box that I don't remember exactly what they do. I know one's like a crank signal and a couple other little things. Anyways, all that to say, I've got most of the starter wiring done. It's all up here. I need to figure out my battery relocation next so I can start cleaning up the wiring. Finish the last couple wires on the MSD box, fuel system, drive shaft, put fluids in the trans, and we should be really close to a first start. If I could just have a full day, guys, we're getting really close. Just frustrating when I got to stop working because literally I'm out of daylight. So hopefully tomorrow we can kind of wrap up the wiring, at least get everything like kind of temporarily ran. So that way, again, everything's going to be long because we're going to be wrapping it hopefully behind the shroud in another video. Obviously, once everything's on the road and good to go and the engine doesn't prove to be garbage. So we got to wrap all that up. So I'm calling it a night and we can get out here tomorrow, hopefully a little earlier, and get some more stuff done. So yeah, more wiring, but again, not much with this MSD box. If I had another hour, could have wrapped up those last couple connections and called that temporary wiring done anyways for a first start. So yeah, it's cooking though. We're getting really close. I'm super stoked. All right, so for starting off today, I decided I was kind of all over the place because I did get some parts in last night that I needed to keep on rolling, which is exciting, and I'll show you all that here in a few minutes. But I decided let's get the drive shaft done because I need to get that put on the truck and then put the speed sensor in the transmission, and then I can fill that up with fluid, and then everything's got fluids in it, and I can not have to worry about trying to accidentally dry start anything because sometimes you just forget when you get this far along. So we're cutting the drive shaft down now. I took a few measurements off camera of what I needed, and then I'll show you all how I'm going to fit these together and how you can essentially kind of DIY extend a drive shaft. I'm not saying it's ideal, but I had done this once before and it held up really, really well. So at least for now, it'll be temporary, get me on the road, and then I'll have the exact length if I want to have a drive shaft shop, you know, make me a full one piece instead of this two piece that I am going to do because of the other drive shaft I bought. So got the drive shaft in, got the transmission sensor on, and now I'm working on putting on the fuel pressure regulator, figuring out the plumbing for all of that. So here's what I've got so far. So I just kind of put the regulator back there. Again, guys, the sheet metal screws, we'll be getting rid of those and doing riv nuts, but for now, to get everything kind of in place, make sure I'm happy with it. All right, guys, we're back. So we were just last working on the carburetor, the wiring, all of that sorts of stuff. I ran out of space on the camera, so I had to stop the footage there. I did do a little bit of work behind the scenes to say on a couple little things because quite frankly, I just didn't really think it would be super exciting to y'all watch me run around the truck and run a couple wires. It's all elementary, super basic wiring stuff with this MSD box and the carburetor. So I'm waiting on a few parts from Amazon. I had to get different ignition. Well, the ignition coils are fine. I had to get different plug wires because these headers are so tight to the spark plugs. I had to get a little bit shorter, kind of like a 90-degree angle instead of the long ones that the guy had given me with the engine. But I'll go ahead and catch y'all up on kind of what we have done here. Okay, so we put the carburetor on, obviously. And I put the fuel pressure regulator on, the MSD box on, which I believe y'all saw all of that. Now again, this is all temporarily, you know, just sheet metal screwed on. I was gonna do riv nuts, but now that I have this done, I think I can just put some small, you know, stainless nut and bolts back through the windshield wiper cowl area. As you can see, I have loose. So I did pull that off the other day. I ran all my MSD wiring, any wiring I could without having to cut any of this large harness yet. I routed up through there, kind of tucked it out of the way, zip tied it all out of the way. The shroud will go back on here, cover all this up. You won't see any of it instead of having the wires on the engine bay. Now these guys are unfortunately still kind of just here in the engine bay because I can't really come up right this moment with a good place to tuck these because it has to come from each coil. So for now, I just kind of ran that all there, zip tied it, routed it up into there. As you can see, it's a little jagged here. So we will be getting some wrap to kind of wrap that, and then I'll probably run it, you know, kind of pack it with a little bit of foam, something to keep this kind of watertight and just keep any wires from rubbing on it. But again, this is just temporary to get everything kind of figured out. So as you can see, we've got all the wiring routed here. Battery terminals are here. Pan over here. The battery box will be actually going there now. I removed this huge clunky one that used to sit right here because it was awful. So the battery will sit right up in here. I have already kind of did a rough CAD with my Fusion 360 to make my own battery box in here. So I don't know if I have any metal right now to cut that, but once I get some metal cut, the battery will mount right in there. Cables will run all up to it. I'll shorten some of the stuff that's a little bit long. As you can see, I'm going to have to extend this guy. I don't even know if I need this one, but I'll probably just extend, run a new wire, and mount it to there. Okay, this is about the best angle I can give y'all. So that's the connection joint right there. Don't stare at the welds too much. I was really stitching that up. So it comes out of the tail shaft, goes right there, and then from there all the way back. And then as far as in the truck, I'll show y'all what we did there. I added 2 switches. So the 2 switches are basically for the MSD box to power it on, and then the other one is for the fuel pump. So I decided to hardwire all of that instead of running it to a key switch. And I may change that down the road if I hate having the switches, but I like that I can crank the truck over without having to pull a fuel fuse or anything like that in case I have a vapor lock issue or something weird and I just need to crank the truck without dumping fuel into the carburetor and running, you know, super rich on startup or causing a heavy over fueling issue. So here's what they are. They're just right in here. They're super basic. This is stands for ignition. So MSD box will go on, turn your fuel on, and then it still cranks from right here in the keyhole. So it starts like a normal truck, but in order to turn it off, you will have to do fuel, MSD box. That'll shut the whole truck off. All right, so while I continue to wait for Amazon, I went under the dash, started looking at a couple different clutch ideas because like I said, I snagged those 2 pedals from the junkyard, see if I could make any of them work. And I did a little looking online just to see like what creative options are out there for like a custom clutch pedal, because mounting it to all the original stuff is a nightmare under the dash. It's impossible to reach. So I found a picture of something that I liked online. I'm going to replicate it. Basically, it's just like a 3-sided box with a couple curves on it. The master, it'll bolt to the firewall where the hole is for where the factory clutch setup can come in. Then the master cylinder will bolt behind that. And then from there, the clutch pedal will hang several inches out off of that piece. So it's all braced up and everything. It'll hang off of that piece. I can do runners up from the top and secure them on plates to make sure it's real nice and stiff. So it's a little confusing sounding, but I got the arc droid fired up. I'm going to get these loaded on and I'll show you all what it's going to look like. So let's get these cut out. And there it is. That's the piece that'll go up against the firewall. Clutch will come in from behind it, and then we're going to build the wings in the top now, and I'm hoping I have enough metal to do it all. We've got our pieces right here on the table. I just barely had enough. The top plate is 3/8 and the rest of them are 1/8 inch, so a little size difference, but even if this is temporary, like I redo it, maybe all out of 3/8 or whatever, at least this gets me the original, like the first fitment and everything like that. So can't be mad just using up scraps I have around the shop, but I need to go out and buy a plate of 3/8 and 1/8 inch at some point because I just use it all the time for all this stuff. And this is the rough idea of what I've got. So a box like this, there'll be a hole, clutch pedal hanging down from here. This will bolt on the firewall like so. Clutch pedal will pivot down here right into the slave cylinder. All right, so I've got the file that I designed from the computer onto here. I'll bring you all in a little bit closer so you can see it. And this is kind of basically what it looks like. before I cut it out. So anyways, as you can kind of see, this is what it looks like. So this is the base plate. It's going to have these 2 legs that'll fold, and then it's going to have 3 sides all the way around it from there. So we're going to cut this one out first, then move on to the next ones. So this is the base plate of it. Again, these 2 ears will fold down, get cut where they need to be. We'll have a side, and then a top. And that's it, guys. Just that simple. Love this thing. I'll probably add a little lip right here, keep the battery from sliding forward, depending on the mount style I go with. But that's it. Just that simple. I'm going to get the next piece ready and get it cut out. So this is it. Just tacked together. Still got to bend these guys down. And then I will probably add, I don't know exactly, I don't think I want to do a whole front piece here. So I don't know if I'll add just a little rib to kind of hold the battery in, or if I'll do some kind of latch. I don't really know yet on that. That's the one thing I couldn't decide. So this at least gets me the rough idea. And then this guy will sit in here like so. And it is a perfect fit, fits beautifully. All right, guys, let's fire this thing up. Put the new plug wraps on, the new billet spark plug, well, not spark plug, but the ignition coil holders. Battery tray is just temporarily in there. So let's go ahead and fire it up and see how it works with some fuel pressure and see if it likes it. Right there, you can kind of hear the idle moving out when it's not getting so much fuel, so I think it's getting way too much fuel. And then right there, fuel pressure cuts off because I don't have the fuel pump on. So I don't know if it's just getting way too much fuel or not enough fuel. All right, guys, so this is going to be the outro to this video. I apologize for it being kind of an awkward outro, but I had actually done a first start the night before that last part in the video. Very brief, just fired it up, pretty much turned it off. It was all kind of just hobnobbed together. It's still not fully buttoned up, but as you saw in the last section of this video, we got it running a little bit better during the daytime, had a little more time to play with it, hook a few more things up. So this is going to be the outro to that video. I apologize for it being a different scene entirely, but like I said, I got it started the night before, and I actually I went up to my camera and I didn't hit the record button on it. So I came over to stop the video after doing my outro and everything and realized I never even started. So I did the video the next day to kind of get a first start that technically was the second start. But thanks again, guys, for tuning in. As always, like, subscribe, share. We've got a lot of plans for this truck. We are just getting started. This is what I'm calling version 1, which is going to be naturally aspirated, work out the kinks, get it on the road running and driving safely, you know, take care of everything that needs to be addressed immediately. Then we'll start working on version 2, which we'll talk about that in the next couple videos. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. Peace.